Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Hijrah Holistics mini-series, Retreat to the Rainy Mountains. In this episode, let's discuss retreat. When I hear the word retreat, two things come to mind through association immediately. One is related to war, to battle, to conflict. The classical conceptualization of a strategic withdrawal from a losing battle in order to preserve one's forces, one's equipment, one's very life. Sometimes it's for strategic purposes. There's a form of deception involved in a retreat for tactical purposes. It's a war stratagem. You could look into Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and various other tactical manuals. Studying various war histories and battle histories to better understand the way that retreat has been utilized by many great generals and admirals on the sea. It can be on the sea, in the air, on the land. So retreat is to pull back, to withdraw. And so, like I said, it can serve offensive or defensive purposes. Defensive is a preservative, life-saving expression. And then in its offensive expression, it has the appearance of being a withdrawal for preservation and an appearance of losing, but then really, and this can do things like psychologically, it generates an overconfidence, an egoism, an egoistic puffery within the so-called victorious side, the side that believes that they are winning. And they may already be given to hubris, to excessive pride, conceit, arrogance. And then they think that they are going to fall upon the losing side. They're going to chase them down. They're going to follow them. And then they might fall into various entrapments. And their arrogance becomes their downfall in a very literal way. So retreat can serve a purpose. And in my conceptualization of the Malhama, which is the Great Slaughter is such a brilliant expression for such a horrific series of events with a broader, lengthier time span, as well as a very narrow, confined expression. And it is total war. It is full spectrum conflict. It is, shadow side holistic is the expression of the enemy, of the devils. And shadow side holistic is totalitarian. So it is totalitarian, total war on not only humanity in a genocidal manner, but on all life. So it's an ecocidal expression. It is an extinction level event. We will get into that on another occasion. I know that many people are automatically going to be in disagreement. I would argue that you are, your body and your mind, you are the front lines. Your family, your marriage is the front lines. Your household is the front lines. Your community is the front lines. The Malhama, it's threaded through it. It's an attack on our genetic integrity, on our cellular and atomic and subatomic and energetic integrity, on our bodily systemic integrity, on our mental integrity. It's an attack on our memories, on our thoughts and our thinking process, on our ability to sense sensations, on our sensory apparatus, on our sense doors and sense organs. It's an attack on the macro and the micro. It's an attack on our various ecosystems, the bodily and the broader, vaster ecosystems. It's an attack on our marriages, on our relationship with our children and with our parents, our relationships with our descendants and our relationships with our ancestors, our relationship with tradition. It is an attack on our various ways of cognizing and interacting with the world, on all of our relationships. Our relationship with truth is being attacked. our relationship with this world, the subtle and the obvious, the inner and the outer, the macro and the micro. It's an attack on humanity on so many levels. It's a very pervasive. This is the Malhama. It's not a little thing. It's not a fantasy realm. This is not a video game. It has digital expressions, by the way. But ultimately, this is spiritual conflict. It's the great struggle. And that's where it begins, is the greater struggle. That is the major focus. And we need to be engaged in holistic Toba, in holistic tazkiyah. We need to be seeking to go into tawakkul, into egoless flow states, in total surrender to truth. Truth is the deity. There is none other. Truth is the Lord of the worlds. Truth is the master of the day of judgment. Truth is the supreme guide. Truth is the compassionate, the just, the merciful. Truth is truth. But you probably have an anthropomorphized vision of Allah. Is that so? You got your little pamphlet? Stuck for Allah. May we not be among the idolaters. People have such false, dangerous conceptualizations of idolatry. Idolatry is unhealthy, toxic, devoted attachment to false conceptualizations of people, places, things, ideas, including ideologies and systems, and attachment to isms and schisms. So the Malhama is threaded through us, quite literally. You know, it's like you are in the middle of a battle every single time you open your mouth to chew a bite of food or food-like substance. If you're eating synthetic, laboratory concocted chemicals within your processed food, that processed food is generally a food stuff. If it has synthetic lab concocted artificial colorings and flavorings, then that is not actual food. It is not nutritive. It is not energizing. It is not purifying. It is not healing. It is not whole making. It is war on you. And it's war on the ecosystem, because everything that you take in, you are going to excrete through sweat, through breath, through urine, through solid waste, and you're pouring out into the environment. Every single thing that you take an input into your bloodstream is going to affect the whole ecosystem and other humans and other creatures. We are to protect all of creation. This is the way of the Muslimin, of the true Mu'mineen. But you want the cartoon vision of Islam, right? Astaghfirullah. We don't live in a cartoon. We live in reality. At least we should. So the Malhama is threaded through. You are the place of conflict. It's worldwide. A bird cannot fly the length of the battlefield before it collapses dead to the ground. You know, and that has to do with radiance and energetic expression. That has to do with toxic cloudings in the air streams, with pollutants within the air, within the soil, and therefore the food, within the water. At the micro level, at the subtle level. So this battle, the Malhama, is all around us. How do we deal with that? Through a holistic Hijrah process. Hijrah is migration. This is a very ancient tradition going back across since the very, very beginning of humanity. And we can see expressions of it with Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, with Noah. We can see expressions of it with Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub. We can see expressions of it with, alayhum salam. We can see expressions of it with Musa, Harun, Maryam, alayhim salam, with Bani Israel. We can see it, so many different expressions of Hijrah. We can see Hijrah being made by many Western and Northern Europeans for religious reasons in order to protect their deen and their iman to the Americas. We see this over and again. The Muslims do not have a monopoly on Hijrah. Muslims just have a monopoly on the word Hijrah, which is related to migration, to exodus. But there are a holistic expression of Hijrah begins at the heart, and recognizing that we live in an imbalanced, toxic state, and in an idolatrous state, and we turn away from the idolatry, we turn away from the unhealth, the toxicity, from attachment to all the Dajjalic realm, and we turn toward truth. Truth is our Qibla. Truth is our Lord. So we orient every expression of our life toward truth. We let go of and purify ourselves of all toxic, unhealthy inputs in thought, word, and deed toward self, and of any toxic, unhealthy outputs toward others in thought, word, or deed. And we go through the holistic tazkiyah process, purifying our bodies, purifying our minds, purifying our relationships, purifying our environments, purifying our marriages, our families, our communities to the greatest of our ability, inshallah. This is Hijrah. So we're going through this process. So in order to make this Hijrah, that is a form of retreat. So we are making retreat. So retreat has this expression of retreating from the battlefield. And we are retreating into nature. We are retreating to that which is safer. We have been warned by Prophet Yeshua, by Isa alayhi salam, and by Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him, to go to the mountains during the time of trial, tribulation, and turmoil. The mountains are a place of safety and refuge to some extent, not complete safety and refuge. In other videos, I have explained that this is not foolproof. It is not absolutely certain. And so we have to not be stuck and attached to the concept, I've got to go to a Muslim land. I've got to go to the literal mountains. Get into nature as much as possible, on a permanent basis if you can, and certainly on a regular basis. Get into nature, rejuvenate, detoxify, purify your bodies and your minds, re-energize, ground your body and your mind in the soil. So you go into the mountains to retreat. Now the second expression of retreat is a spiritual retreat. A retreat in order to purify and strengthen the body and the mind, in order to live closely to the land, to eat pure, organic, ethically sourced foods and drinks and clean water as much as possible. So we need to purify and detox. And so there's that expression. And so in another video, I will discuss other ways of viewing sheep and goats. But typically the retreat expression, we have retreat embedded within the Muhammadan expression of Islam. Our Nabi, peace be upon him, he would regularly during Ramadan go off into a cave on a mountain. Caves and mountains are interrelated. Your body is a mountain, and going within is going into the cave. This is one expression of it. And to go and literally spend time in the caves and in the mountains is very beneficial. And perhaps Allah will lead you to a place where you can do that in a physical way. If you are attached or addicted to Dajjalic inputs and have not let go of these devil tech expressions and purified yourself thereof, then if you think you're making Hijrah, then all you are doing, or if you're making Hijrah to the wrong place, you're carrying all of your patterns with you. It's not going away. It's not going to disappear. It's right there with you. If you are a cigarette addict, you are going to be a cigarette addict anywhere in this entire world until you work through these issues. And then, even if you let it go, you have to purify yourself, and then you need to nutrify and heal your body. You need to come out of a broken state of broken lungs and broken cellular structure and come into a whole state. Purified, nutrified, strengthened, invigorated. So all of these things matter. So So a retreat, we've got this expression within the Mohammedan expression, with our Nebi, also within like the 10-day retreats within the masajid. And when you go and you spend an extended period of time, even if it just was for an hour, making retreat into the masjid, this can be of great benefit. There are also, within the broader prophetic tradition, we've got all kinds of retreat experiences where people would take 40-day walks in the wilderness, do 40-day fasting, 40-day silent retreats in caves. We've got the retreat tradition expressed by people like Ilyas and Ilyasa alayhum salam and their disciples in their network called the Sons of the Prophets. May Allah be pleased with them. We also have expressions within within the retreat tradition from Yahya alayhi salam, from Isa alayhi salam, their various disciples. The disciples of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him, and many of them among the awliya and those among the Sufis have practiced halwa, have practiced chilla. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing these things. 40-day retreats under supervision. Sometimes retreats within caves. Sometimes in the wilderness, living on hillsides and mountainsides, living at the confluence of rivers, in various high energy locations in forests. So we have these retreat expressions. What I would encourage you to do is, no matter what, make retreat in order to draw near to Allah. If you have not yet, if you can move, I'm not sure to what extent we can or should move to other countries right now. I'm watching Hijrah videos and I am blown away by how many of the Muslimin are not understanding what's going on. They think that they're going to just go and keep meeting with scholars and sitting in circles. You don't see the signs? This makes no sense to me. Are you protecting your sacred Adamic clay? I pray so. Preserving your deen includes your very clay. So for instance, we say that marriage is half of the deen, right? There is a biblical saying that when a man and a woman come together as a married couple, they become one flesh. Half deen, whole. Human and human, one being, one body, one heart. There are many ways of conceptualizing this, and I'm saying don't be overly attached to any conceptualization. Stay warmly non-attached. Collect as much data as possible and cultivate excellent methodologies in order to analyze what you are observing, what you are paying attention to and reading the outer and the inner. So retreat is something while you are making hijrah at home, going through your cabinets and getting rid of all cancer-causing, neurologically damaging products, all unhealthy, toxic inputs that are absorptive into the skin, into the mouth, into the nose, into your bodily mental framework, into your family structure, into the household, into your vehicle, whatever. You're cleansing and detoxing everything within you and around you. You are making retreat. And then spend as much time praying in the darkness. Simulate cave-like experiences. Spend time in late night prayer. Have a dark room and pray in the darkness for a whole day, just water fasting. Making as many rakat as you can, as long and lengthy as you can. Standing in prayer, bowing in prayer for long periods of time. Sitting and prostrating. Stay in prostration for hours. If you can, stay in prostration for hours. You might be totally transformed. Learn to surrender. This is making retreat. Sit cross-legged in the darkness for hours, in the late night, early in the morning. In the wilderness, on a hillside, in the mountains, every week. If you are stuck in your community, as long as you got time and you got gasoline, get into nature. Get into nature one way or another every single day. And the other expression related to retreat is retreat into the body. Be as embodied as possible and as aware of your body senses and your breath as possible. Be aware of your thinking process. Be aware of your emotional expressions. Be aware. Read yourself as sacred text, because you are sacred text. You are kun created clay, kun created water. Have you ever read that water? Have you ever read that clay? Well, you think this is a cartoon too? Man, this is cartoon. This is Disney World. Astaghfirullah. Wake up, people. Wake up. You have this beautiful, excellent body. You have this perfect immune system that only requires that you have adequate sunshine, adequate rest, adequate clean hydration, adequate nutrition from as many life-giving plants, fruits, and herbs and seeds for healing and nutrifying purposes. Go holistic. So make retreat. And these retreats have often been used for healing the body. They used to have sanatoriums in the wilderness where people would go for long periods of time in order to recuperate from being in polluted cities, breathing dirty air, in order to get back into nature, sometimes for months at a time. People after long conflicts and wars, people had PTSD, and all throughout the world, particularly in South Asia, and within, like, a lot of the Sufi expression and the Buddhist expression comes out of people who had long been engaged in conflict, and then they went in retreat into nature, sometimes in a solitary, cenobitic, hermit-style mode, sometimes in a community, in a communal, supportive manner, within monastic settings that sometimes would be permanent, sometimes would be temporary, so that they could heal and work through their PTSDs and harmonize. And this would be for men, for women who had gone through war and conflict and trauma. And some people, war can be anywhere. If you've lived in an abusive household, if you've been through physically and psychologically intense and abusive marriages and divorce, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have been in war. Or if you live in a community that's tore up, it's war. If you've lived around riots, it's war. War is pervasive. And I would argue that these are all expressions of the Malhama as well. The Malhama is much, is over a longer time span than we've imagined as well. I'll discuss this more later, but consider that retreat has many different perspectives and views, but no matter what, it comes down to go into nature, become embodied, become very present, very mindful, very aware, very appreciative. Read and analyze with all of your senses, with your mind's eye, within and around, all the outer signs and the inner signs. You engage in holistic toba, holistic tazkiyah. Go into tawakkul, egoless flow states where you are utterly dependent on the truth. Be in total surrender to truth, the Lord of the worlds. Be purified, be rectified, be made whole. Go into the deepest sajda and arise, rectified, whole, upright, with integrity, with dignity, with your humanity intact. And then once you are transformed, brothers and sisters, our path is the path of sadaqah. We have a total obligation to share with others. Sadaqah is always justice. Justice has many expressions. It is just and right to be of benefit to others, to all of creation, to all creatures, to all humans, Muslim, non-Muslim. To remove and end all forms of tyranny, oppression, and enslavement within and around. But first we have to overcome our own selfish expressions. This is the greater struggle. This is the black flag. So we'll discuss this more soon, inshallah. But it is important to make retreat on a regular basis into nature and on a daily basis into nature by going within. So you are appreciated and well loved. May we make the healthiest retreats, and may we emerge victorious. May we draw near unto the truth and be transformed thereby, as individuals and collectively. Till next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.